It ain't about how hard you hit. It's about how hard you can get hit and keep moving forward. About how much you can take and keep moving forward. Hey, yo, Adrian. We did it! What's going on, guys? My name is Trevor and welcome to my channel. With Creed 3 hitting theaters this weekend, it makes it the 9th movie inside the Rocky universe, one of the best franchises of all time. And instead of just ranking all 9 Rocky and Creed movies, we're doing things just a little bit differently today. We're going to rank all 9 of the movies, but I'm going to share with you my top 3 favorite characters, my top 3 favorite villains, my top 3 favorite montages, and all 9 end Rocky and Creed fight scenes ranked. The most ultimate epic ranking for the Rocky universe, being that it is one of my favorite franchises of all time. Want to do it a little different and go all in this video. I put time codes down in the description. If you want to skip around, feel free to do so. We're going to start with the ranking, then we're going to go to montages, then characters, then villains, and then end with all 9 fight scenes ranked. It's going to be a lot of fun. I'm excited to do it. Leave a like for me for the ultimate Rocky showdown, and let me know all your favorites of these down below in the comment section. Let's do this. Hey, yo, Adrian, are you ready to do this? Let's do it. So before we get into the ranking of all 9 Rocky movies, I have to say, I watched the Creed movies before I watched any Rocky movie. So if Creeds are a couple higher than Rocky, it's because I really, I guess, grew up with Creed over Rocky. Gonna have some hot takes in here. Starting this ranking off at number 9 is Rocky 5. This is the only movie of the Rocky and Creed movies that I genuinely do not like. There's a couple of redeeming scenes with Mick involved. Other than that, I think the movie made Rocky despicable, turned against his family, really turned him away from everything that made us love him. I thought how he lost his money was just a really silly thing. And the character of Paulie and Rocky and everyone just, you're not really on board with them. At least for me, I was not on board with these characters. I think everyone can agree that Rocky 5 is at the bottom. At number 8, from this point on, I think these are all at least a 4 out of 5 minimum. Some are 5 out of 5s. But at number 8, is Rocky Balboa, aka Rocky 6. It pains me to put it this low because I absolutely love this movie, and Rocky's trying to go fight again, and he has that iconic motivational speech. It ain't about how hard you hit, it's about how hard you can get hit and keep moving forward, about how much you can take and keep moving forward. One of the most ultimate motivational scenes of all time. Sylvester Stallone turns in a great performance in this movie. He ends up losing to the champ, but it's an exhibition anyway, and no one expected him to last as long as he did and put a whooping on the champ like he did. They had some really creative decisions in there, a lot of flashbacks throughout the fight to Adrian, little glimpses that come into his head. I thought it worked to its advantage. I love Rocky Balboa. It pains me to put it this low. At number 7 is Creed. Very low on this list, I'm well aware. I love the Creed movies, one of my favorite trilogies of all time, and I would argue this is Sly Stallone's best performance as Rocky Balboa. He did get nominated for an Oscar for it, and his performance is so subtle, but it's beautiful, and he trains Adonis Creed, gets back into the ring in a way. The only thing about this movie, why it's a lot lower than the others, is it's a little anticlimactic how he loses at the end. Obviously, Rocky's lost at the end before, but you're just really rooting for him. You want him to win. And at the very end, I just wanted a little bit more. But I love this movie. When he's running down the streets of Philadelphia with the motorcycles and everything chasing behind him, I thought it was awesome. I thought it was epic. I love the character of Adonis Creed so much. First Creed, my least favorite of the Creed movies. At number 6 is Rocky 3. My favorite part about this movie is the montage and how Apollo Creed teaches him how to fight like him, how to move like him. The Italian Stallion and Apollo Creed working together. I love the montage in this movie. It is a little bit cheesy. Mr. T, pity the fool. There's a little bit cheesy lines in there, but that end fight scene is every bit of epic as you want it to be. And Rocky takes a beating, as he always does, but he powers through and comes out on top, and he moves like Apollo Creed. Apollo Creed's in his corner. Apollo Creed went from being a great villain to arguably my favorite character inside the entire franchise. At number 5 is Rocky 4. If he dies, he dies. Apollo Creed goes to fight Drago, and Drago actually kills him in the ring. Rocky has to go to Russia to fight Drago. In their fight scene is epic, and their montage is epic, and Drago brings that presence as a villain, and Rocky sees his arguably best friend at the time die right in front of him, and he has to go and fight Drago, and their montage, Drago! The reason Rocky 4 is a lot lower for me than a lot of other people is the beginning takes a while to find itself. With the whole house robot, it kind of just took me out of the movie in the first 30 minutes. It really did. That's a nitpick in the scheme of things. Their end fight scene and the montage make this movie what it is. At number 4 is Creed 3. I was a big fan of this movie and everything Michael B. Jordan brought to the screen. He made some very creative decisions that are either going to work for you or they're not going to work for you. For me, it worked to its advantage. I'm a sucker for a good brother story. This is the only movie inside of any of these that don't have the character of Rocky. And while I was really nervous going in, I never once asked myself, where is Rocky? They mentioned him once or twice, and that's all the movie movie really needed. It's standing on its own 2 feet. I loved everything Creed 3 has to offer. It's my favorite movie of the year so far. At number 3 is Rocky 2. This one and the first Rocky go back and forth as to which one is my favorite. But Rocky 2 I feel is one of the most relatable movies of all time. Rocky's down on his luck and he's broke and he only has one thing to do, and that's fight. And I feel like that's a metaphor for life. When you're down on your luck, nothing's going your way, only thing you can do is fight. And that's exactly what Rocky does. Goes back and fights Apollo Creed again because Apollo Creed is reaching for that rematch and he beats him. He gets up with 1 second over Apollo Creed and he wins it and becomes a heavyweight world champion of the world. And then Apollo Creed goes again from being a great villain to one of my favorite characters inside the Rocky franchise in general. At number 2, the first Rocky. The first Rocky is every bit of emotional and amazing and one of the best drama movies of all time. Sylvester Stallone has so many mannerisms and he just embodies the character of Rocky Balboa, and he's a fighter who's an amateur fighter, gets beat up a lot, and then all of a sudden he gets the chance of a lifetime. The Italian Stallion gets called up by Apollo Creed to fight for the heavyweight championship of the world as an exhibition. It's all because Apollo Creed's like, I'm gonna run right through this guy, I'm being fair to all, and Rocky has a crazy training montage, gets Mick in his corner, and he goes and he brings a whooping to Apollo Creed. Even though it's an exhibition and doesn't count for anything, we all know Rocky won, and it leads up to their epic rematch in Rocky 2. The first Rocky is one of the greatest dramas of all time. It's one of my favorite sport movies of all time. But at number 1, hot take incoming, is Creed 2. I love Michael B. Jordan's performance in this, and I love Sly Stallone's performance in this, how he has to come out and he has to go and fight Russia again. Adonis Creed goes through hell, literally, then has to go to hell in the desert to have the most epic training montage with the epic soundtrack. He goes and fights Drago in Russia. It's everything and more you can want in a movie. At least for me, this is the hottest take of the day, I promise you. But Creed 2 is my number 1 favorite Rocky movie. Moving on to the villains, I'm giving you my top 3 villains of the Rocky universe. At number 3 is going to be Ivan Drago. Drago is a great villain and brings that presence, and obviously he kills Apollo Creed inside the ring, but he just doesn't talk a lot, so I feel like a lot of people would have him at number 1, but for me, if he talked more, he would be at number 1. Still a great villain, still brings that presence, and when Rocky's fighting him in Rocky 4, I was never more hype than watching one of these fights than when I watched Rocky 4 and he beat Drago. It was epic. At number 2, I'm going Dame Anderson from Creed 3, played by Jonathan Majors. A big part of that is because of Jonathan Majors' performance, but the reason I have him on this top 3 is because he's a character who is so relatable. You can see where he's come from, and as much as you're rooting for Adonis Creed, you're rooting for Dame just as well. I love a good brother story, has a great end fight battle. I love the creative decision Michael B. Jordan made, and Jonathan Majors, my favorite part about Creed 3. But at number 1 is Apollo Creed. The first 2 movies when Apollo's the villain, he's talking all this trash and all this mess to Rocky. You just can't help but hate him, and then all of a sudden he turns good in Rocky 3, and you can't help but love him. Carl Weathers turns in a great performance, and I love the character of Apollo Creed. I loved him as a villain in the first 2 Rocky movies. Moving on to my top 3 favorite montages. At number 3, we have Rocky 3, when Apollo Creed's training Rocky to be able to move, not be so stiff, dance around, and he learns and looks exactly as Apollo Creed does. And the main reason this is so epic, the eye of the tiger, and he moves and he learns to be just like Apollo Creed, and then you get Mr. T going out there working out. Pity the fool. I love this training montage so much. At number 2 is Rocky 4. Rocky goes to Russia. He's training in the snow. He runs up the mountain. Drago! It's everything and more you can want. Drago's in there punching his machine. He's like the hardest hitting punch ever during this time, and Rocky's getting back to his old ways, getting down to the grit, going to a dirty gym, going through everything. This is the montage I was up, jumping, fist pumping, screaming, having hella fun. But my number 1 favorite montage from the Rocky and Creed movies is Creed 2. I love what they have to do here because essentially Adonis Creed lost against Drago, and then he goes to the desert and Rocky's there taking with these guys who don't care who he is, put a whooping on him, get him running on the asphalt in 100-something degree weather, going to hell so he can go into Russia and not be afraid of anything. The music, the score, the training, how it goes from Drago back to Adonis Creed, it all works so well. It's my favorite montage of all time. It's my favorite montage of the Rocky movies. Moving on to my top 3 favorite Rocky characters. At number 3, I have Mick. The reason I love this character so much is because this is the one guy Rocky truly looked up to. Mick was always in his ear, and when Mick does die, that puts a fire and a fuel into Rocky. And all throughout the later movies, Mick comes in, he has a little flashback, he has words of advice for Rocky. And my favorite part about Rocky 5 is the flashbacks with Mick and how Rocky's kind of saying everything that Mick told him. The character of Mick is iconic and epic. At number 2 is Apollo Creed. Apollo Creed is a great villain, but a great friend and character as well. Apollo Creed was the cocky villain to the humble friend, back to the cocky guy trying to get back in the ring and not lose what he had. Carl Weathers turns in a fantastic performance. I love the character of Apollo Creed. He might be number 1, dang near. But at number 1 is Rocky. You can't have all these movies named Rocky without the character of Rocky being number one, and everything about this character just works. He can never catch a break. He has all the money in the world, no money in the world. Adrian dies. He has a rocky relationship with his son. He constantly takes a beating. He's going through brain damage and blindness out of his eye, and the people closest to him, and Apollo, Adrian, and Mick all die. Sly Stallone turns in some of his best performances of his entire career throughout the Rocky franchise. It's his most iconic character, hands down. And to finish off this ultimate epic Rocky ranking, we are going to the end fights. Leave a like for me. It's been a lot of fun to do so far, and let's get into these end fights. At number 9 is Rocky 5. He fights Tommy Gunn in the street. It's kind of despicable. I never liked the character of Tommy Gunn. I did not like this movie at all. At number 8 is Creed. The only reason for it is Creed loses. Set him up with so much hype that he looked like he was going to win, and he lost. Something about that just never sat right with me. It's my least favorite part about this movie. At number 7, Rocky Balboa. When he goes to fight the champ, everyone's like, Rocky, you're too old. That's not going to work. You're going to get your butt whooped. And while he does, as Rocky always does, he's the only person to ever put a beating on the champ like he did. At number 6, Rocky 2. This is when Rocky beats Apollo by literally a split second. These two fighters are as even as can be. And Rocky 2's end fight was as epic as it was emotional, because these two become friends by the end of this movie. Rocky and Creed, the ultimate rivals of each other, go head to head. And the third fight, we find out in the Creed movies that Creed actually won. Rocky 2's fight is so dope. At number 5 is Creed 2. This is when Adonis Creed redeems himself after he pretty much lost to Drago, comes back and beats Drago. And this one has an emotional punch because Ivan goes for victory and he throws in the towel. He saves his son and actually shows the Dragos, they have a heart, okay? And you get Drago in Creed 3. It's pretty cool. At number 4, the first Rocky. The Italian Stallion against the World Heavyweight Champion, Apollo Creed. No one expected Rocky to do anything. He's getting whooped up on by Apollo. You can't put Rocky down. He's got the ultimate chin of a lifetime. And everyone knows by the end of this, even though it was an exhibition, Rocky won. And Apollo was not happy about it. At number 3 is Rocky 3 when he fights Mr. T, but he's fighting like Apollo Creed, and Mick dies before this fight. Rocky has the eye of the tiger. Goes in there, puts a beating on this bowling ball of a human who beat him before, and he comes in, takes it to him, puts a whooping on him, and moves and fights like Apollo Creed. I love that montage. I love his end fight scene for that. He looks like Apollo out there. And he goes back to his Rocky days where he bites on his mouthpiece, and he don't care who's standing in his way. Rocky's coming out on top. At number 2, Creed 3. There's a creative decision Michael B. Jordan makes here as a director where he takes away the crowd and it's just him and Jonathan Majors fighting each other. And it'll have tidbits and reminders of where they came from. How Jonathan Majors was in jail. And when he gets thrown against the ropes, a jail cell drops behind him. And when they were kids in a group home, they would go and they would beat up this big body pillow like training and practicing. And so when Adonis Creed gets thrown into the corner, it looks like he's against the body pillow that they would punch as kids. So many creative decisions that I love with this. The anime fighting style that I love with it, from the slow-mos to the score to how Michael B. Jordan took away the crowd and it's had two brothers fight each other. I thought it was the best thing he could have done for this movie, and I absolutely love that creative decision. But at number 1 is Rocky 4, when Rocky fights Drago and he takes a beating by this huge Russian, and he does the impossible. He beats him. He redeems Apollo Creed. He goes against the world. It's the United States versus Russia, and United States came out top with Rocky. Takes everything that Drago had away. It's the ultimate fight. This is the only fight of all the Rocky movies where I was jumping out of my seat, screaming, throwing uppercuts in the air like I was Rocky. That's what you want in a movie. It's the best end fight. And that's going to do it for our ultimate epic Rocky ranking. Let me know your favorites of all these down below in the comment section. I have some hot takes in there, I'm well aware of that, but leave a like for me, hit that subscribe button, notification bell so you don't miss out on any future content. And you guys so much for watching. Had a lot of fun with this video. I'll see you in the next one.